Assalamu alaikum. This is your computer science teacher Safawad Akhtar Ansari. This is a part 2 of the one-dimensional array explanation, and I already explained you in the part 1. So just have a quick recap of what we did in the last class. So basically, what is an array? So array basically is a data structure which contains the same data types of the elements. So here you can see that if we say that we have got an array name, alright, let me just arrange it. Okay, now in the last class I told you my array name is month's name, and I want to store 12 months and data type is string. Right, so this is how can we do, or we may also assign the names of our elements. Like if I just leave it blank here, then I may store my elements in an array using the curly brackets, and then in the I start opening inverted commas, and then I write my January, and then inverted comma close, then comma as a separator, and then I use to open my other inverted commas to store next value February. Then it is completed. Now next I use my separator, and then I open my next inverted commas March, and so on. So you may declare your array like this. So behind the scene, what happens, like your system, what does it do? So let me increase the font size. Let's suppose this column indicates the index number. This column is the index number. And this is our month's name. So this is the name of our array, and this column is the index. So index position 1, let's suppose, let me increase the font size for the better understanding. So let's suppose my index position is 0, and then what our system does, it starts allocating the space for our data. It could be integer or it could be a string. So index position 1, then it allocates a space for the index position 1, and then for the index number 2, it allocates the index position 2 for our next data, and then it allocates the index position 3, and then we store our element. So this is how our system does in the one-dimensional array. So what happens next is, after the allocating the space, the same data type, integer or the string, whatever you have got. Now what do we do today in our exercise? I'm just closing this window because it is of no use. Alright, so what we are going today in our one-dimensional array class. So I'm about to store and initialize the marks of 5 subjects in an array. So let's begin the pseudocode. So I declare my variable marks, and I want to store and initialize values which are marks. So I want to store and initialize. So this is called the declaration and initialization of an array. My array name is marks, and I just leave blank square brackets, and marks data type is the integer, and then I store marks out of 100. It's 58 and 68, 95, 50 and 23. These are the 5 random marks out of 100 that I stored and initialized in my array called marks. And then I will definitely use my loop, and for the loop I will use my variable, and I name it count. I also want to take out the sum of these values, so I use the variable sum, and this is the data type integer. Now I initialize these variables count with initialize with the 0, and sum initialized with the 0 as well. Then for the user understanding, I just display the heading. It is optional, but it appears to be a good pseudocode technique that you must display a prompt. So that is why I just put the prompt here, that print display marks of 5 subjects. And then next the technical stuff starts. So I use the for loop to assign my elements in an array. I want to assign my elements in an array. So how do I do it with the for loop? I use the variable count, and it will start iterating the values. Consider this is the index 0 and it is our last index 4. So for loop will start assigning or allocating the iteration for our elements. So it start from the index 0 till index position 4. Then I use this is just for the information that we are not basically about to input the marks, because we have already initialized the marks. So I will just write down the heading of marks. This text will be written here, and after there my marks will be output like 58, 68, 95, 50 and 23. This will be the output. Next I want to add up all these marks, so I use the variable sum, and assigning formula is sum plus marks, or you may use total or total plus marks. So I use this variable sum and sum plus marks. So I'm basically adding up all these values. So I use the variable sum for the addition, and marks are stored in the index position. So I use the variable count, because our index positions are stored in this variable. So this is a derivation of the formula, and it will perform each iteration till it reaches to 4. After the next, I just want to display the marks. So marks are marks output, right? So print or output, prompt is here, marks are, and I can display marks like this, marks with my variable count, because in the count variable we assigned all of the array elements. But we can do the output with the loop as well. So there are two methods. One method is this: without the loop I am displaying the marks, and we can also use the loop to display the marks. So it's up to you. I'm telling you both the methods, but what is appropriate, I guess, in my opinion, I think we should use the loop for the output. And then grand total, print total is, this is a prompt, and our total is here sum, right? And then we write ENG here. So we use okay, now let's see the implementation of this code. So I've already made this code, and let's see how does it work. Basically same things, but in the context of the high level language. Pseudocode, this is a duplicate of the pseudocode, but in the context of high level language. So we just use the high level language code. This is nothing else. So let's see the output. Okay, let me increase the font size for a better understanding. So display the marks of, this is the heading, display the marks of 5 subjects, marks 58, marks 68. These are the marks that we stored and initialized in an array. And here we are just displaying the marks, and then here we displayed the total of the marks that we stored and initialized. And press any key to exit. When you press enter, then our program will be shut off. So this is the simple program that we made. But in case if we want to input marks and then store in an array, if you see here, we did not input the marks, but in next assignment we input the marks and then store in an array. So let's see how can we do it. Okay, here for I do not know how much marks student will input, so I just write the declaration of my array marks, and I want to store 5 subjects marks or 4 subjects marks. It is up to you. If I start from 0 index, so I will just store 4 index 0, and if you start with the index 1, then you will store 5 numbers. If you start from 1, but I am starting from 0, so I am just starting with the 4. So declare marks is the name of my array, 4 is the length or the size of an array. It means 0 till 4 means 5 marks we will store in our array. Alright, count as variable for the loop, and sum or total you may use as a variable to sum up. The initialization is same as we did in the last program. This step is the same. Loop is the same that we did in the last program. There is nothing different, but here I use the input statement. Input enter marks, and our marks will be stored in this variable, and our loop will assign, our variable count will assign the element's position. Rest of the formula same, totaling and count and sum, right? You may use total here. Total equals to total, right? So it's up to you which variable you may use, but you must do the changing over here wherever need. So let's see the implementation of this program in the high level language code. I have already made the code, and you may see here that this is a high level language VB.NET, and let's see that our pseudocode basically is an exoskeleton, and we must implement in the high level language to make it perfect, to make it work perfectly. So let's see that our pseudocode, when we convert our pseudocode in the high level language, does it work well or not, and if it does not work well, we must revise the pseudocode techniques to make our program working. So let's suppose I input 12 out of 100, 56 or 90 or 22 or 45. So these are the marks that I input: 12, 56, 90, 22 and 45. Alright, and grand total is 225. So this is how we can display our values. So I hope you understood, but if you do not understand, you may just keep watching the video, and still you are confused, and you may contact me on WhatsApp or Facebook, and then you may ask me queries. I hope you understood it well, and just keep practicing of the pseudocode. It will be on your fingertips. Thank you so much. Allah Hafiz.